Hi, I'm Ryan from Ambient. So I was really excited to make this week's video. I was going to explore ambient soundscapes, but ones that sounded more organic and used acoustic instruments rather than electric ones. They were going to be based on something I did on a track I released about a year ago. It sounded like this. Basically, it was a ukulele, played without any particular rhythmic pattern, layered with different takes in a certain key, and run through a series of delays. And I was going to recreate that and make it a free VST for Kontakt and maybe decent sampler. It was going to be awesome. Notice all the past tense? I sat down to get started and this happened. And if you're sitting there asking, what just happened? It seemed like nothing just happened. That's because nothing happened. My interface, which if you're not familiar is sort of the heart of the studio, didn't do anything. It wouldn't turn on. I tried what I could, but realized pretty quickly that I had a decision to make. I could go get it repaired, which would take who knows how long and cost some amount of money, or I could try to find a replacement. Probably more expensive, but I could get back to work and start recording some ukulele. And yes, I know it's ukulele, but that's like one step short of saying Barcelona. Anyways, I decided to go the new route. Well, used, but new to me. But with the research involved and waiting for shipping and then rewiring the patch bay, troubleshooting because I'm terrible at rewiring my patch bay, I was off schedule, like really off schedule. So much so that my super exciting idea was impossible to finish in time for this video. I found myself thinking, what could I pivot to for a video this week? And was having a hard time trying to figure out what I could do without my normal few days of research. And I got a notification on my phone that I had a new comment on one of my videos. Are you familiar with graphic scores? I recently learned about them and have been enjoying making them and then figuring out how to perform them afterwards. I would love to hear your take on this topic. Thank you, Ambient Assemblage. I have heard of graphic scores, and I have some thoughts. So here we go. While I didn't have the time to do a super deep dive on graphic scores, I thought I'd run down what I like and dislike about graphic scores, as well as give sort of a surface level description of what they are and how they became a thing. So what is a graphic score? Well, this is, and so is this. It's basically a score that uses visual symbols or information to convey musical ideas. They don't use traditional notation and can take a lot of different forms. To understand the why, we have to go back to the height of the avant-garde movement. Music notation had become so meticulously written. Graphic scores were sort of the pushback to the uber-detailed works of 20th century classical composers. Instead of trying to write out every note, rhythmic pattern, articulation, or dynamic marking that yielded something that sounded like this, graphic scores could convey a similar sound by using symbols, shades of colors, lines, basically notating the shape and feeling to get a similar sound. One thing I really like about graphic notation is that it really is the ultimate collaboration. The performer does become a co-composer in a way. This is a really neat part about graphic scores. Choosing the performer becomes a really important part of the process. You know, if I see this, I guarantee that I'm going to interpret it differently than if you have like Heinbach do it. As the composer, choosing between myself and Heinbach is really going to determine a lot before either of us even sees the score. Another really helpful thing about graphic scores is they can address things that traditional notation just can't. When traditional notation as we know it was developed, synthesizers, recorded music for samples, they weren't invented yet. So there's no way to notate things like timbre, intonation, ADSR, sample start times, and the list goes on. Graphic notation fixes this by just hinting at it, giving the performer the space to make those determinations. Or you could simply add graphic elements to an existing score, I guess, and create sort of a hybrid of the two. I think that would work, actually. I think my favorite aspect of graphical notation is that the performance itself becomes as valuable as the work itself. Instead of a particular composition becoming noteworthy, a performance of it can. You could conceivably have an entire album of the same piece of music performed by 15 different artists with 15 unique pieces. And of course, just because it's graphic notation doesn't mean it has to sound like this. As the composer, you can put restraints on a piece. You can write at the top, play and stay in D minor, or tonal, or don't let it sound like a cat being tortured by Roseanne Barr while singing the national anthem. That one might show my age a little bit. Not the cat part, the Roseanne part. The only thing that I dislike about graphic scores is the same thing that I sort of gripe about when it comes to most avant-garde art music or just 20th century classical. It's that it's not that accessible. It seems hard to approach if you're just starting out, and it's completely not. especially because a lot of the time these scores don't have much in the way of notes. You know, you're left to come up with your own interpretation. You don't need to be a virtuoso to attempt it. I wish I had more time to go a little deeper into different aspects of graphic scores this week, maybe even perform one or write a few, but I sort of ran out of time, but I think I will in a coming video, so keep an eye out for that. I'll also be starting on my ukulele VST. I'll be on vacation starting Friday, so no video next week. I will be back August 16th with a new video though. And thank you, Ambient Assemblage, for saving the day with a topic for me to talk about. And thank you everyone else for watching. I'll see you next time.